Hey everybody, it's me Gigliola here with another pedal demo. Today we're talking about the Jptr Effects Double Jive, and I'm very excited to show you this. Now, Jptr Effects are a pedal brand manufacturer from Germany, and arguably one of their most celebrated pedals is the Jive. And when I got my hands on that pedal a couple of years back, I was pretty excited to test it out, and I was pretty amazed at how versatile it is. Now, with all things that are fun, double the jive means double the fun. So here we are with the double jive. Now, what you have here are two jives in one enclosure. You have one input and one output each, and the possibilities with this are nearly endless. Now, one thing to know about this is you can use the two jives in series, you can use them in parallel, you can use them independently from each other, and this makes it a very versatile pedal in your arsenal. Now, if you used the regular jive before, you will basically have the same layout in this one too. You have the three clipping diodes on each side, the volume, you have the gain, and like I said, now depending on how you want to use this pedal, you can set them both identically, you can set them separately, and that opens up a lot of ways how to use this on your pedal board, on your rig. I mean, hell, you can use this in your studio as a utility too. Now, the way I use the single jive most of the time was in front of a clean amp. Basically, what I did was I used it in front of a completely clean amp. In fact, a preamp pedal, which is the AMT R2 Legend series. It's super clean. In fact, it's unpleasantly clean. It doesn't break up. I use the gain almost all the way up. Now, all the sounds you'll be hearing are coming out of the Torpedo Cab amp. This is the left side, sort of set to a mid gain. I would call it mid gain. Now we have both volume and gain on 3 o'clock, and the first clipping diode engaged. Now, what you can do, if that's not enough for you, you can use the second jive in front and boost it that way. Now, turning up the volume really pushes the second jive. The second jive is now totally maxed out. I have the second clipping diode engaged, and on the second jive, I will engage the first diode. The gain on the second jive a little backed off, so it doesn't really push that far, so that the headroom is not exceeded and you don't have that pulsating effect. Now, the second thing you can do is using the jive's effects loop to put one of the jives in front of the amp to boost it, and then use the second jive after the main gain stage. Now, for that, I'll be using my trusty orange micro dark. This amp does have a preamp tube. It does not have a power amp tube, but it's a very cool sort of platform to use this jive. and to showcase a very, very neat effect. Now, one thing I want to point out is that the power section simulation on the cab amp is not enabled. This is why. Let's go ahead and dial in a basic tone for the orange. I usually set the gain at 1 or 2 o'clock. For the sake of the demonstration, I will leave the shape knob at noon. Now, the first jive I want to use as a clean boost, almost in a way you would use a tube screamer in front of a gain amp. Jive is enabled, and I'm slowly pushing the gain up. Volume is maxed out. And now what I'm looking for is that little bit of extra saturation that you get. Right now there's no clipping diode engaged. Let's try them out. Let's try the last one. Now, just for giggles, let's turn them all on. The volume is maxed out, the gain is maxed out, all the diodes are engaged. And then again you get this pulsating effect because we are completely overloading the preamp of the micro dark. Back up the volume a little bit. Max out the volume like I did before and have the second clipping diode engaged. Now we're back to this. You can use it in a little more natural way to boost your amp. What I have here is the Jazzmaster Baritone. It's a bass 6 kind of instrument, and it's tuned an octave lower than your regular guitar. Now, this is just the amp. Now what I want to show you is how to use the second jive. Effectively, it's an effects loop of the micro dark. Let's try to emulate the feel of 2 power amp. At 9 o'clock, it's the minimal amount of gain without really adding gain to your signal. Volume is at 0. I will slowly turn this up. Now what you got to do is set the level of the pedal in loop, or in this case it's the orange. Set the volume where you push the second jive with that pedal. Set the volume to 0. Now there you can hear the sweet spot kind of where the orange starts to push the jive, right? Now one thing you want to do is enabling a clipping diode in the second jive. And I found that the second one almost cuts out a little bit of the low end, especially of the very muddy low end. Now in the same way we use this for the high gain tone, we can also use this for the clean channel. Now we're back to the Jptr2. I'm set on the clean channel. Now with nothing on, it sounds like this. It's super clean and there's no real feel to it. If I use the second jive, so it's set after the clean channel, gain at 9 o'clock, volume is at 3, and I have the second clipping diode active now. What is very important here is your level of the pedal in front of the jive, yet again. Now the signal is coming in. Now we're starting to hear now it's really pushing the jive. Now the way you want to think about the jive after your clean amp is to give it slight compression. If I play very lightly, you don't hear much of a difference, but if you start to dig in, then that peak will soften a bit. Now if you really max out the volume on your clean signal, you might think of this as a one channel clean amp that you dime. You turn the volume all the way up. Now in reality, when you sit in a room with that set amp, will blow your ears out. But I guess in this kind of setting, you can kind of simulate that. So I'm using the Jive after the preamp just with this very mellow setting, because if I want to get that grit, that's what the first Jive is for. Now, right now, volume at 3, gain at 9. Now what you hear, it's getting a little fizzy, because what we're doing now is really pushing that clean amp, which is not breaking up by itself. So I will back up the volume a little bit, increase the gain. remember the gain in front is at 3 o'clock, so it's almost maxed out. I mean, let's max it out for just for trying, and I back off the volume just a little bit. Now, what you're getting here is a very, very dynamic tone. Now, I've used this setup, I used that for a long time as my primary sound. Now, also, one thing to notice, you can put this thing straight into a power amp, or like I've done it in the return of the Micro Dark, and it will be plenty loud when connected to a 412. So it was loud enough to play with a drummer. So now what we have is same setup, same settings as before, just without the clean preamp of the AMT in the middle. Now what I will do is push the front of the second jive a little harder. Now, I think one difference you can hear, it's a little warmer sounding, and depending on how far you push the second jive, you will hear this in a second, it gets a little more fuzzy. Now, this doesn't have to be a bad thing. Now, I really started to appreciate fuzz sounds while trying out this pedal, because to be honest, I mean, I love Queens of the Stone Age, and I really love some songs that have fuzz in it, but I really never could make any sense of fuzz pedals for my playing. But that's probably because I'm playing it wrong. So, gain is maxed out, volume is almost there. Now volume is up all the way. First clip diet on, volume maxed out, and gain maxed out. Now, this setting does a very interesting thing. Play very light, it does this brittley kind of thing. But still, what you can do is I think this is a perfect setting for like something very doomy or sludgy, and I would play it if I could, or if I knew what I was doing. But just try it with the humbucker. Now, what I want to do lastly is try out the Jive with a bass. I'm using the clean channel of the R2 again. I know it's not a bass preamp, but it's very linear, and I'm using a stock IR from the Two Notes. It's the bass V-shape preset, and just with the R2 it sounds like this. On the second channel of the Jive, I'm using the same settings again. Now, gain is very subtle. I think I'm going to use the first diet now, and this is how it sounds. The sound of the bass is pretty clean so far, but we're about to change that. Now, I'm using the gain at halfway. I'm right now with no clipping diodes engaged. I would suggest to put a clipping diode in front just to soften up the edges a little bit. Take down the volume, give it more gain. Now it's really getting fuzzy. But just like with guitar, you could really use this as a bass preamp because it gives it warm kind of character, and if you're done dialing your clean tone, you always have the option to push it even further. It doesn't really matter what instrument you play. I think the Jive is really an upgrade to any pedal board or setup you can think of, and whether you're using it as an active way of changing your sound in the set, while turning it on and off, or just finding settings you can leave on all the time, I think the Jive shines in its ability to play all of those roles. Now, you guys, this was my demonstration of the Jptr FX Double Jive. Thank you so much for checking out this video and watching it. Also, thanks to Jptr Effects for sending out this pedal for me to try out. I will link their shop down below if you're interested in buying one. And also, lastly, a question for you guys is, what is your favorite always on pedal? Tell me more about your favorite pedal down below in the comment section. My name is Milika Jiklolu. I will see you in the next one.